Regan Forsten is the author of the book 3 Hours and 33 Minutes, and he's with us now. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Now, first of all, what is the idea behind your book?
Well, about 3 years ago, I went through a process where I was able to spend 3 hours, 33 minutes in heaven
Oh,
and had quite a life-changing experience. And so the book I wrote, 3 hours, 33 minutes in heaven, is about the time that I spent in heaven, what I learned about myself, what I saw, what it was like.
mm,
And and actually the process was so life changing and everything that I actually took a year long course and to be able to help other people have the same experience that I did through
yeah.
the Newton Institute. For 40 years, they've been studying what happens when we die, like,
Oh,
where we go, what do we do when we get to heaven?
yeah.
And that sort of thing. And they have this process now that's very, very simple that most people that try it are successful. And as of a few months ago, we've had 50,000 people have this
Ooh,
experience successfully to go to heaven and back.
wow. How does the experience work? Do you have to kind of die for a bit, or
No, that's the cool thing. It's like having a near-death experience without the dying part.
yeah?
Um, it was accidentally discovered about 40 years ago when Michael Newton had a client in hypnosis. He was helping them with some other, issue that they had, and the person, when he wanted to bring him out of hypnosis, the person refused to come out. He
Oh,
says, "No, I want to go home." And the Dr. Newton said, "What do you mean go home?" He said, "I want to go home." And he said, "Well, take me there." And this guy proceeded to, in a sense, leave his conscious body and go to heaven. And then, he saw a bunch of friends that were there, in
oh,
heaven, and it was like a homecoming. And when after that happened, Dr. Newton, who didn't believe in, past lives, he didn't believe
mm,
in heaven so much, he said, "Well, I got to try this with someone else." And over a period of 40 years, he had 7,000 other people that he had go through this process. So he's a researcher.
wow.
So he just started asking question after question after question. So we've kind of now through the Institute kind of mapped out this part of heaven that we're in. And it's pretty, it's pretty mind blowing. Uh,
Yeah.
I've had 50 people so far that I've had clients that have helped through this process. I had 54 that have tried it, and 50 have been successful.
Oh,
So what it is really. It's like um, if you looked at your brain waves right now as we're talking, they would be really close together. And
yeah.
as you begin to relax before you go to sleep at night, you go from we're right now in a alpha, I mean a beta state. And as your brain waves go apart, as you relax, you become beta, then you go
Oh,
theta, and then delta. Well, this process, what they got me to do is just to get to theta, like just before, so relaxed that I was just about to fall asleep. But the facilitator keeps talking to me and keeps me in that state. And it
yeah.
seems like we all have this switch in us that when you have someone that keeps you from falling asleep, you can just easily go right to a past life, see yourself pass away. And then from there, there's always a guide or an angel. Some people see angels or whatever, somebody there. And then then the facilitator, we start communicating with that guide, and
Mm.
we'll say, "Hey, can you go to heaven?" And the guide will always say, "Yeah, come on." It's so cool. And then when you're there, there's different things you can do,
Oh,
like you can visit, like I saw my mother, my father, my brother who had died
mm.
momentarily as they kind of smiled at me, and we had a little communication, and then Zoom, I was on to something else. I got to go before a council there, like in the Bible, they say there's the judgment day or the council of judges or something like
Yeah.
that. Well, I had six people on this council, and I was able to ask them questions that I prepared ahead of time.
Oh,
So I asked about my mission, like why did I decide to be born? I found out what that was. Um, found out that I was doing pretty good, but I needed to kind of step it up a little bit, they said. I was getting a little lazy in my mission.
Yeah.
And I also visited a place where creativity comes from, it was a big temple. And they took me in a music room, and there was a teacher there that showed me how to be inspired if I wanted to create music. And after that session or something, I actually created a CD that I'm getting royalties on right now because I got inspired. I had like 16 songs that came to me over a period of a month or so, and I don't know if I could do it again, but it's something. But what it does is it proved to me that I'm more than just this body.
Yeah.
I know there's an afterlife. I know there's a heaven. I know that I'm just using this body right now for a reason, to learn some things.
Yeah.
And it's the Newton Institute. They're not for any one particular religion. It's like, I've had people come to me that are. I had a Buddhist that I helped go to the other side. I had a couple of Christians. Had 3 people that were Jewish that came to me, and all of them had different religious beliefs, but they all had this beautiful spiritual experience,
Yeah.
So it seems that when you get to the other side, religion doesn't matter. It's just a matter of love. And over there, if you ask, like some of my clients have asked them over there, well, what religion should they be? And they always, on the other side, they tell them it's whatever you choose. In other words, you find something that lights you up and that feels good, and you're probably in the right place. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. What does heaven actually look like then? Because I'm assuming it's not just the same as the earth with buildings and everything that you'd expect.
Yeah, I think it kind of appears to people similar. It's like the same, but a little different for the different people. And I think a lot of it has how their human mind interprets what they're seeing. But here's the thing that's really interesting that blew me away, because I was not expecting this, is that a lot of what you see there, it's like different physics. It's like you see like energy, it looks like in our true form we're this conscious energy, and your human mind sees it as like when I was at my soul group, which was, people that I incarnate with, I guess, regularly, people that knew me, like old friends that were there. You see like balls of energy, it's like orbs, only different colors and that. But when you're in that state, you recognize them, just like you and I are looking at each other in this form. And I would say, hey, there's Toby. Well, when you're in that state, and this is the weird thing too, is because it's like your mind is split equally. Like I knew I was laying down, and I knew there was a facilitator talking to me, so I knew the process was going on, but the other half of me was totally there, So it's like you're bouncing back and forth as you're talking, and you're seeing all these images, communicating with like my guide on the other side. His name was Rebazar, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Rebazar, okay.
Bit bizarre.
Yeah, a few of my clients, when they're on the other side and we talk to the guide and we say, okay, what's your name? And one of them the other day said, oh, just call me Bob.
Yeah.
Have a really good sense of humor. But
Yeah.
it's this feeling that you have when you're there. It's like buckets of love are just being dumped on you the whole time you're there. I mean, it's like you've never felt such love before. And people appear like, for instance, one of my clients the other day, when I had him describe his guide, and the guide was like, he said, well, from the waist up, he could see a human form. And the guide was kind of androgynous, couldn't tell male or female, and had this beautiful, like purplish, violet purplish energy all around him in the lower part of his body, and then we would just ask the guide questions and say, hey, can we go here? Can we go there? And he'd say, okay. So it's kind of mind blowing, but what's cool is as we're doing this research, we're finding out more and more all the time, kind of what it's all about,
Yeah.
and you come back with a sense that you're never going to be prejudiced again, because when you're on the other side, we're all spirit,
Yeah,
we're all one, you know. Um,
exactly.
we're not divided by race and color and different things. It's just the most amazing amazing experience, you know.
Yeah. Has everyone who's tried this ended up in heaven, or is there a hell involved in this as well, that somebody who tries this could end up in there?
No, actually, in the 50,000 we've not seen any evidence of a hell that it even exists.
Mm.
There is, however, in the research we've done, because we've asked people over there that have, sinned or done some things they thought was bad when they get over there, and it's themselves, their higher selves, that, in a sense, you get to the other side and you go, oh, what did I do? I went down there to be all this, and then I end up getting seduced by whatever, and I did some bad things. And they usually self-impose themselves some sort of healing that has to be done. Some of them put themselves like in a purgatory or like a timeout for a while so they could regroup and, in a sense, recharge again before they decide to come back down and have another life. Some of them decide to go back and experience the pain that they cause people to experience the pain themselves. Kind of like, I guess you'd say, karma or something.
Yeah.
In other words, you get back. So there's always correction. There's always fixing, in a way, what you've done bad, in a way, in some form. So the result's the same, but there's no, fire, damnation, or whatever. One of my colleagues had a client. He's on the other side, and all of a sudden he's in hypnosis, and he starts screaming. He goes, "Oh, the devil! Oh my God, the devil's here!"
Yeah.
And the therapist calmed him down a little bit. And he says, "Now look, let's just see if it's the devil." He says, "Go. I want you to go a little closer and take another look and say, is this really the devil?" And then the guy started laughing hysterically. He said, "No, it's my guy. He's just because this guy was a preacher and he'd been teaching hell and damnation all his life." And the guide says, "I'm just giving you some of what you've been giving all these other people, like a joke on them or something." So we don't, we're just researchers. We're not for any one particular religion, and that's just what we found. And everybody that's been there, of these 50,000, we've not had anybody that's had what we would call a negative experience. They've had emotional time, because to get to heaven, the process we found is we have them go to a past life. And so some of the past lives, like the ways they've died or something like that, has been kind of gruesome. But we, in the process, we have them, if they, like, I had one of my clients, the way, the technique I use is I take them up where they see themselves and like looking down at the earth. And I say, well, look around and see if you see a tunnel or anything. And they'll go, oh yeah, there's one. And then there's like the light at the end of the tunnel, So I have them feel the tunnel pulling them into it. And then I count from 10 down to 1, and the light gets bigger and bigger and brighter and brighter. And I say, okay, now when I count down from 10 to 1, when you get to 1, you're going to be standing at a significant point in another lifetime that you had. And we get to 1, and it blows me away. And I says, okay, look around. Is it day or night? And they're kind of like, well, it's daytime. And I said, well, look down and see what's on your, see what you're wearing on your feet. And they'll look down and they'll go, oh my God, it's sandals, or they'll say I'm barefoot or whatever. And you get them oriented to there. And then you're able to go back and forth in the timeline, because there's no time and space over there. So you can go back when they were a child or whatever. But I had one of them that when he went through the tunnel, and then all of a sudden his face, he's just going, oh, and I go, what's going on? And he goes, nails. He was being nailed to a cross. Whoa. And it turned out to be, he was one of the early Christians. And he got kicked out of his temple back there because he thought he was a kook, talking about the Messiah came. They thought he was crazy. And he and his friend were going around proclaiming that Jesus the Messiah was coming. And they didn't like that. So they, I don't know who did it, but they strung him up, they killed him. It's amazing, but I'll tell you, most people that go to past lives, it's what we call digging potatoes lives. It's nothing. They're just just like you and I right now, we're not like the, we're not where anybody would notice us on TV or be famous. Well, you might be famous over there, doing your show.
They're not the presidents or anything.
Yeah, they're just normal lives, where people have. That's surprised me just how easy it is for someone, even if they just do a simple past life regression. People lay down, I take them through this process of get them to that point, and boom, just like that, they're in a past life. And it really surprises some people because they'll say, gosh, when you asked me all these things, I was seeing them like it was real. And some of them actually feel themselves in that body so they can feel the sensation. And some people watch it like it's on a screen and they just know that that's them and they see what's going on. So there's a lot to this. See, and you're pretty young right now. So just even hearing this today, it'll kind of plant a seed for you to realize that this stuff is real. Some people say, oh, it's just your imagination. Like I've had a few people that said, hey, just let me see if I can go to a past life. And so they get to this point, they see where they're at. They tell, like I'll say, what are you doing for a living? And they'll say, well, I'm working with tanning hides and doing all this. And it blows their mind. Then they come out of it and they go, I just made all that crap up. I think I just made it all up. I said, well, maybe you did. I don't know.
Yeah. Have you ever had anyone that's turned out to be somebody like Elvis in their past life?
No, never. Never had one of those yet. So the thing is too, see, some people, when you get to this hypnotic state or this trance, when you're in, you can just tell people can't make this stuff up. It's like truth comes out, and now I'm working on my certification through the quantum healing hypnosis technique right now, which is QHHT. And I'm in I'm a second level with that right now. And what we do there is when the people are in heaven, we ask the person laying in front of us, we say, can we talk to your subconscious, your higher self? And the person that's in trance will say yes. And then out pops the subconscious like a third person. It's the most craziest thing. And here's the person laying on the bed, and their higher self is talking about them in third person. In other words, saying, well, Bob should be doing this, and he knows better than what he's doing, and he needs to do this, and if he would do this, and we can ask questions. We can say, like, why is he having such a trouble with this in his life? And the subconscious, the higher self, knows all the answers, and it'll just tell him. And here's the weird part. Now, a lot of this is going to be crazy for a lot of your people listening, but again, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, they've done about 70 or 80,000 successful sessions. And we ask the subconscious if it'll do a body scan. Ooh. And the subconscious, so far, I've had 8 in my training so far in the last couple of months. And the subconscious says, sure, I'll do a body scan. And it goes in the body and it tells them about anything that's wrong with them. And actually, I just had a woman last week that had trouble with her hip. It's been locked up for a long time. And I asked the subconscious, can you heal that? And the subconscious says, sure. So the subconscious is working on her and her body's moving around and, like this, she's in trance. And when she's done, she goes, oh my God, my hip moves now. So it's the power of the mind, the power of this higher self is unbelievable, Toby.
Yeah.
So it's a life changer. Like clients that I've seen like 3 years ago and everything, and I'm talking to them and they go, I've never been the same since. So when they're walking around, they see life differently. They realize that they're not here by accident, that they really have a mission and they have a purpose. And sometimes it's a simple purpose. Like with me, my reason for coming down in this body was to learn kindness, was learn to be kind at any cost. And my secondary thing was to do this work. Like I was like coming back from heaven. I was above the earth. And I had this teacher was next to me, and it's kind of holographic a little bit, like I wasn't seeing him like I'm seeing you as clear, but he was right there and I could tell, and we were communicating. And he asked me, he said, are you sure you want to do this work to help other people come to heaven too? And I think I said the F word. I said, oh, yes. There I am using the F word with the teacher, but I was so excited, And and then he told me, he said, if you're going to do this work, he says, there's a few things you have to do, or your physical body's going to get sick and you'll die. Because when I'm with these people and you're in this energy all the time, like these sessions are 4, 5, 6 hours long. I mean, it's there's so much going on, and we have the people like me. I just stayed in heaven, and I just knew when it was time to come back. And the facilitator said, well, is it time for you to come back? And I go, yeah, it's time for me to come back. And then he brought me out, So I just follow when I'm helping other people have this process. I just follow them along, and help them stay focused. And then I record everything, because some people, they only remember bits and pieces of it. And because they're so deep, they're so deep. So when they listen to the recording, they go, oh my God, that's me talking about myself, Like, oh my gosh. But I felt that when I was there in heaven, there was a point when I merged. It's like this self and my higher self merged. And I swear I felt like Solomon, like I just knew the answers about anything that anybody would ask me. It was the most craziest feeling. Yeah, we found out a lot over there. Here's the cool thing that we found out. Like Toby, when you were up there in heaven before you were born, and you decided to come down and be Toby, you didn't send all of the energy of your soul into the body. You send a percentage of it, depending on how hard your mission is going to be here. So what that means is, Toby, like part of you is still there. Like right now, there's your higher self is there. So that means that people that are in your life, in the research we've done, like your mom, your dad, or people that are still alive in your life now, when you're up there in your soul group, you can see if your mom or dad's up there and have a conversation with them. So that's this craziest thing. And people say, oh my God, like they're married. Like I've done husband and wife sometimes. And while they're up there, they get to talk to the person who's in their life alive on earth, but they're talking to the higher selves of their partners. And they can say things to the higher partners like, hey, how am I doing? Am I being a good wife, or am I being a good husband? What pisses you off? What am I doing? And they can actually have conversations with them there. So there's a lot, like there's case histories. The Newton Institute, or Michael Newton, he's written a number of books with case histories. One of them is called Journey of Souls. And a lot of people have found that in miraculous ways. It's in, I think, 6 different languages now, and it's sold millions of copies. Wow. Because people just, like you being young right now, I'll tell you, a lot of younger people, they don't really think too much about heaven, about God and everything when they're young. They're just all about, getting that car and getting that house and getting that job and finding a girl, or, chasing girls or whatever. And it's not usually, most people don't really get God in their life until they get in their like late 30s, 40s, 50s, something like that, after the world's kind of knocked you around a little bit. Yeah. And the youngest one I've had so far, I had a 10-year-old young lady who the parents brought her to me because she was having nightmares ever since she was 3 years old. When she was 3 years old, she told her mom that she was killed in the back, stabbed to death in the back of a car. Oh. And that's a 3-year-old, Yeah. And she never, and she's 10 years old now, and she's never changed her story. So the parents had heard about me, and they said, can you help my daughter? And I said, well, we don't usually do young children, because if they find themselves in a past life and something traumatic, we don't want to re-traumatize them. Yeah. When at 10 years old, they don't know how to process it. But she was very mature, this young girl. And so I had the parents come with her, and they were sitting next to me. And I said, well, let's just see what happens. And this young girl, this 10-year-old girl, in like 20 minutes, she was deep under. She found herself in another lifetime, and she was a man named George, had a wife and kids and an occupation and everything. And here, this is blowing me away, because here's this little 10-year-old talking about being a man, little girl, about being a man in their lifetime. She knew all about that life. And in that life, she was seeing I'll call her Sarah, is her name, just make it up. But she was George in that lifetime. And when George's wife died, I mean, this little girl is crying on the table there. She just said, oh, my wife just died, And anyway, she saw herself pass away at 90 years old. She had her grandkids were around her. and everything. And then when she went into her soul body above that, then the wife that had died was there to meet George. And then and then I had George go on to heaven or whatever. And now I was there's an angel there. And we asked the angel about that life, and the angel said, yes, she did leave, get killed in the back of a car. Said it was in England, actually, in like the late 40s sometime. And the angel told her that that was in that lifetime. That's not happening in this lifetime. She had nothing to worry about in this lifetime. And the angel was so kind and so loving to her and so nurturing. You could see, I could just see her laying on the thing here, and this little 10-year-old girl would just started smiling and feeling good. And the angel told her, nothing to worry about in this lifetime. You're doing just fine. You don't need to carry that with you. So when we brought her out, she was just smiling, and we said, how do you feel? And she goes, I don't have to worry about that anymore. So following up on that, they said that was a real good healing thing for her to realize that she had just carried something over into her life now, The University of Virginia has been studying children who remember past lives for over 40 years. And they have 2,500 cases of children they've interviewed that the children would tell them about their lives and give them information, who they were, where they lived, and that. And they've been able to go back and verify that information.
That's weird.
Mind-blowing, yeah.
How come most of us aren't able to remember our previous lives then?
Well, we have that ability. We're finding out now that we do it. You just have to get into a certain state, and then almost everybody can. But the reason on the other side they don't is like because we have to, we have to get on with things. In other words, when you're in the womb, now this is another crazy thing too. When I had my experience, my facilitator took me back to the earliest childhood memory that I have in this life, so I'm in trance and I'm remembering the earliest thing. And then he says, okay, now you're getting younger and smaller and younger and smaller, and you're only 30 days old, and you're 20 days old, and you're 10 days old, and you're 5 days old, and you're 1 day old. And he says, now you're where you were just before you were born. And I ended up being in my mother's womb. And we found now, because we can ask questions of people when they have this womb experience, that they're still in full soul consciousness. They're like at the starting gate, like a horse getting ready to go on the race, to be born. And when they're in the womb, they know what their mission is. They know why they chose this person to be their mother. They know what they're going to teach their mother and what their mother's going to teach them. They can even sense what their father, they're in the womb, but they can sense what their father's even thinking and feeling. And I swear, it's like I got to know my mother had already died, but when I was experiencing that womb thing, I was crying. I was here on the table in the facilitator, and I was bawling my eyes out because I felt so much love for my mother. And anyway, from there, you detach from the womb and you go into the tunnel into a past life. So that's also, even if someone just has that experience, that's almost life-changing, because they realize, oh my God, I can remember being in my mother's womb. Like, what the heck is that all about? But like I say, we're researchers and people just do this, and it's not even a hard thing to do, So we have, I think, that before Michael Newton passed away about 3 years ago, he had, 14 years ago, he started the Newton Institute. He was getting old, and he thought, you know what, I've got to start teaching this to other people so they can carry on the research. So he started the Institute, and now we have, I think, about 250. There's 250 people like me that are trained to help people have this experience. And we have them in, I think, 16 different countries right now, and in about 8 different languages that we have people that are trained to do this. So there's, if people over in your area, in your area of England over there, if they want to find a facilitator, they just go to the newtoninstitute.org. It's like Fig Newton, newtoninstitute.org. And they have a list of all of the therapists that are, around the world. And then people can call them. They can go. It's like I say, 4, 5, 6 hour process, depending on what happens, and they can have this experience. So like I say, I don't judge it at all. I know all we know in this research is this is a phenomenon that happens. So We figure we've proven reincarnation because if you have 2 or 3 people that you have on the thing and they have some experience, some past life experience, you can figure, well, yeah, it's just a coincidence or they're making it up in their mind. But when you have 50,000 people that do it and without any problem and you kind of say, well, I guess this is, as a scientist or doing the scientific research we're doing, we figure it's real. On my website, I'm giving away a free book right now to any of your listeners there, Toby. If they go to visittheafterlife.com, that's my website, visittheafterlife.com. And there, it's a book, it's called Reincarnation is Real, and it's about all the latest research that's being done around the world about reincarnation. So it kind of educates people and gives them there's some videos on there of examples of people that remember their past lives. And if there's even one on there about this, a child that remembered a past life, and he was able to go back to the home where he lived in another lifetime and identify they were still alive, his older siblings that were there.
Wow.
So that's, and actually there's a video on YouTube that's, I think it's either England or Ireland. And this woman now is, she's about 27 or 28. And the video that I watched was done by a TV show in either England or Ireland over there where they had heard about her. So they looked her up and she, in this lifetime, she's always been worried about her other children. And their parents said when she was a kid, you don't have kids, you're just a little kid. She goes, no, I've got 4 kids that I'm worried about. Well, she remembered them her whole life. And in hypnosis, she was able to identify the house and the street and everything that she lived on. So they took her there. She was able to identify the house. And they did find out that people of the name she said she was in that lifetime used to live there, that she had 4 kids, and that she died in that lifetime when she was, like a young lady having the 4 kids. They found out that her 4 children were still alive, but they were in their 90s. They found, isn't this bizarre? Yeah. She was able to go there, and at first they didn't believe her, but she knew so much about them. She said, this has to be our mom. She said, nobody else would know all these things, but she know all about our childhood and everything like that. So, and now they're, I don't know if her kids have passed on or whatever now, but they continue to correspond. So, it changes the paradigm, of people. Like with, Toby, like with you growing up right now, you're probably a particular, sometimes at your age, a lot of young men are like in between, like they believe maybe more than what they did growing up, and or they're trying to find out about what God's really, really all about. But that's why, so it's a little upsetting to some people because they've been taught and they have a certain belief system, and there's all this new information coming out now. But I usually tell people, I said, well, I'm just the messenger. This is just what's happening. How can you, and it's up to people to do what they want with the information, whether they want to just totally disbelieve it or maybe go, maybe there's something more maybe there's something more to life and that I'm just not aware of yet, Yeah. So,
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show today then.
Yeah, sure. So anybody own my book?
Yeah.
That's it. It's 3 hours, 33 minutes in heaven. You get it either through my website, it goes to Amazon. And this is just about my experience, but there's, like I say, if they go to the Newton Institute, they'll see a lot of books that are on case histories there. And also Dolores Cannon, it's Canon. She was another researcher back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And she's also was doing the same work that Michael Newton was doing, but they didn't even know each other, but they were having the same results.
Wow.
So, she's got about 18 books out, I think, all about case histories and stuff, that way. So I'll be happy if anybody goes to the visittheafterlife.com, they have any questions or anything, I can try to help them find a therapist, or if they want to ask me questions about what I saw in heaven and what happened, I'll be happy to tell them.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome, Toby.